Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day it will be when you watch this, and our live audience. Welcome to a special edition of Worship on Wednesday. My name is Karen Williams, and I am the lead servant of the First Pentecostal Church of God, Inc., and we're located at 5146 South Ashland Avenue. Today, we are going to tackle the question that's on a lot of parents' minds. Should I send my children back to school? I have a very learned panel, and they will introduce themselves. You come on, ladies, and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Kae McGee. I am a CPS parent and an educator in CPS. This is into my 22nd year.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Welcome, Kay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, I'm Traycee Fox, former school board president of Elementary School District 159 in Madison. I am a parent all the time. That's all. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Traycee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kamilah Hampton. I am a CPS parent as well as a CPS principal of Richard J. Daly Academy in the back of the Yards neighborhood.
Yes, indeed. Woo, that's our school. Just as a full disclosure, these ladies are some of my closest friends and family. I love them. We've not had, I normally send out pre-questions, but today I did not because I wanted the answers to be fresh off the block. I wanted you to get them when I got them. And also, another disclosure, we are all parents. I don't know if you heard that. All of us are mothers. We have 1, 2, 3 ladies that have children from K through 12. And then I have college-age children. I'm going to start initially. They didn't know what they were going to do. Then they sent a letter out and said the freshmen and sophomores would be coming back and the juniors and seniors would be online. Then, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, they sent a letter saying everybody's going to be online. They're taking down tuition by 10%, and they're sending Dell computers to every enrolled student. I just want to say I am tipping my hat to this HBCU for doing a fantastic job. It took them a while, but they went ahead and did it. There were some colleges, I think Boston College was the first university or college that said that they were going to have their class fully online. My oldest daughter is in an online program with Berkeley School of Music right now in the master's program, and we'll be starting a law school, which is going to be totally online. So it seems to me that most of the colleges and universities got it right away. So what was happening in March, that we had to close down our country, is still we're in the exact same position that we were in March. Nothing has changed. We had to close the schools, couldn't do summer programs, couldn't have activities in sports, but now all of a sudden we can open up the schools. As a parent, I'm worried. As a pastor of a church with children, I am worried. So I wanted to get these ladies in to talk about this. Would you tell me, first of all, I would start with Traycee. How do you have a high school age son in the district that you were the school board president in. How do you feel about this, and what discussions would you be having if you were the school board president?
Okay. Well, first I want to make correction. He's in the school district 227. I'm not on the board there.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes, that's right.
Okay. My stance on it is I don't want him. He's not going to be returning to school. They are going to do, for now, my understanding is a virtual or e-learning, if you will. I'm really pleased with that. And quite frankly, I really don't see him going throughout the rest of the school year at year ending. I don't see that until this clears up. And as long as they're having virtual meetings, my kid will be virtual just as well. So his safety is real important. I'm totally against him going back to school.
Okay, what discussions would you be having? Because there were some parents that'll say, and I totally understand this, they can't go back to work because their children aren't going to go to school. So now it's stopping the parents from making a living to take care of their children. Also, there are parents that will say the school provides breakfast, free lunch, and they can't get there to get it. As a school board president, what discussions would you be having at this point?
You know what? I would address those issues. I think it is important. You can't neglect the fact that the children, wanting to be able to have the access to, meals that are available. That shouldn't stop. In fact, it didn't stop in our district. So they're still, they've been doing that and providing for it. But I think part of the discussion would be to really consider even transportation, if you will. I mean, it even starts there picking up the children. They're on these school buses. And what are we saying? Right now, if there's a limitation in the amount of buses, school buses there, you're going to limit the amount of kids on the buses too. It just doesn't sound practical. So I would really discuss practicality outside of, health, the real concern, the real issues that would be there. And even the teachers. It starts from the actual source of the school before you can bring anybody in there. You got the instructors in there, and then you got these kids that are coming in there that, and if you think about it, even the other countries, I would definitely bring up and try to mirror how they're doing what they're doing. Like there are other countries that are doing much better. Our kids are, we're not even prepared. We haven't prepared for it. So I would look for ways that would prepare our children in the future, but not right now. Right now, we'll just stay with virtual learning until they get it together. And it's what's best for the kids in the district. You've got some kids who have IEPs. Some of them need specific instructional learning. Some kids don't do well electronically, if you will. They may need hands-on.
That is a discussion.
Yeah. So I'm an adult that needs hands-on. You can talk to me about it, but I need that. So the limitation of how many instructors are available, for the kids. So I would just stay electronic, period. I just would not even think about the kids entering the school ground. So those would be the discussions that I would have in place.
Thank you for that. Ms. Kae, what do you think? So here it is. And if you're uncomfortable with any question that I'm asking, just say please. And I've known you long enough to know that you'll do that. But so what, as a teacher, I want to ask you, how comfortable are you with, number one, and I don't even know if this is the case, but signing a waiver saying if I get COVID, I won't sue the school. And as a parent, I wouldn't sign that, so I wouldn't send my children back. But how comfortable are you with the children coming back?
I will not sign a waiver. I am
Right.
not comfortable with the children coming back. We are not prepared. We haven't been given specific guidelines. I don't even understand if our COVID numbers are higher now than they were in March. How is it okay for us to go back now? Or if the gyms can only have 10 people and restaurants 6 and apartments can't have more than 5 and the bars are closed, then how can teachers have a pod of 15? Are we not more, our lives not worth more than the people at the gym and the bar and the kids? Mm-hmm. And I want to start off by saying, are they going to test all the kids and all the teachers before school starts? And then, what if somebody is asymptomatic? And it just trickles down from there as far as, how do you, if a kid comes to school with it, and the parent won't come pick them up, or they have a fever when they're checked at the door and the parent won't come pick them up because they went to work, who holds that child all day? And once somebody comes down in our classroom with it, then the whole classroom has to be quarantined. So now I'm quarantined, but do you expect me to teach remotely now that I'm quarantined? Or, how does that work? We haven't been given a lot of the, as my mom would say, the who-as and the wherefores about the logistics of it all. So, and my son is going into his freshman year. I would love for him to be there and get that whole freshie experience.
Certainly.
But he can get it upstairs on his Chromebook.
Right. So I guess there's another question I'll ask you as an educator. So I read something where it said that adults wouldn't keep their masks on. How are we expecting like the pre-K, kindergarten, first graders to keep their masks on when the adults couldn't even do it? So what do you think about that? Do you think, because I know you're in elementary school, is that correct?
I am. I teach third grade. Those masks are hot, god awful hot.
They are.
For me as an adult. So the last thing that I read was that preschoolers and kindergartens are going in 5 days a week, and they're expected to have their mask on all the time. Preschoolers in kindergarten, 5 days a week. It's all about their socialization. I understand that, but their rooms are small. They don't have desks. They sit at tables. So how are they going to socialize with a mask on? How can you,
I'm more concerned about the social distancing than the socializing.
The parents, we're talking about the social distancing.
Right. How do you keep the children from touching?
Socializing when you have to social distance. The two can't coexist.
And the kids, they want to socialize. I mean, I get what Ms. McGee is saying.
Yes.
They don't care about distancing. They don't even see what we see. Yeah, so I mean, I get it. They want to socialize.
And they don't get it, and they shouldn't have to at 4 and 5 years old. Us adults should be able to figure it out. I was talking, I preached for my friend this past Sunday at Concord Baptist Church, Dr. Kenneth Phelps and his wife. She is a principal, and she said that she had to go back to school on Monday. So Kamilah, did you also have to go back on Monday?
So I've worked the entire pandemic. So that's I can give another kind of perspective in reference to what's taking place. So of course, Ms. Kae, like there's been a lot of planning and a lot of kind of backstage things taking place in terms of what school can and will look like. What I do want to do is praise my CEO and our CEDO because they have been doing an awesome job. This situation has been a evolving situation. It changes every single day. We would think one day we have it figured out, and then the next day it goes to no, that doesn't work, right?
Yes.
So I just ask for people in general outside of education. At this time, educators need grace because we're really trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Yes. One thing I do want to say, well, my mom made the decision for me. My son is not going back in the fall.
Right, I get it. I promise you, my mother would have said the same thing. Yeah.
No, that was I had people above me, and that just wasn't happening. But in reference to, I feel more comfortable with us actually developing a plan versus not having a plan. So principals had a call with our CEO and our CEDO about 2 days ago over the course of this week. And they have made it very clear if it's not safe to go back, we will be virtual starting day one. The pressure is coming from, of course, our federal government and not being prepared or having a plan of what schools should actually look like. So I really appreciate the districts for getting together. As the state has stated that they're putting it on the districts to come up with the plan. CPS's plan involves parents, it involves staff members, and it also involves administration on the central office level to give insight. And for me, I have to be in the middle because I have a working community, right? Yes. And I also understand that they have nowhere to send their children. So the park district is right in the front of my school. All of the essential workers' kids have to go there because they have nowhere else for them to go. But then also understanding that we want to make sure that we keep kids safe as well. So I won't say that I'm on one side. I'm neutral because I understand both sides. I just continue to tell parents, make sure you're completing the surveys. And then also, if you're in a suburban district, go to those meetings to advocate for what you need as a parent. because if you cannot send them back, every district has to offer the remote option. Keep your child at home if that is what's best for you. But then also just don't be judgmental to the other parents who don't have a choice. And if this
Exactly.
is the only option that they have, support them in that. I've even had to talk to some of my friends about how they talk to their friends, like, hey, that's not an option that they have. They're not a stay-at-home mom. They work.
Yes.
They may be single. You know, what other options and opportunities can we provide?
That's good. I like that. Well, other people having other opinions. It is always welcome. If you guys have a question or comment, you go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and Sun, aka Jesse, will let me know what you're saying and what your question is. So I want to ask you this, Kamilah. So with because your school is in the district or the area where our church is, and so we take a certain interest in our local school. How do you feel about the kids going over to the Park District? Does the Park District have a plan? Do they social distance with the kids? What is going over there? Do you know anything about it?
Yes, ma'am. So we're in close partnership with Cornell Park. So
That's
they have maximum of the amount of children that they can have. The children have to wear masks all day. And it's stressful. I know it is. I saw the director the other day and she's stressed out. You can tell. But she knows that we're doing all that we can to make sure to keep the kids are safe, but then also give parents, you know, a safe space for their children to come to. Programming is they have to clean and sanitize every single time the kids enter the room, kids leave the room, and a lot of the programming is outside so that they can make sure they're social distancing.
That's good, and it can be done a little bit in this the kind of weather that we're having right now. So Sunday, I went out and it was 96 degrees. The moment I walked out, I felt like somebody had their hand over my mouth. And then when I put the mask on, I felt like somebody was choking me. I was like, oh my God, a panic attack. And so I'm wondering how, so as an educator, as a principal particularly, so you'll have, if you're in school, we don't know yet, like when it will be, if it will be virtual, hybrid, or what. You're going to have your mask on all day long, right? And so your entire staff will also have to have their masks on all day long. And can the parents depend on that?
In terms of when students return?
Yes, if they should, because at this point, we don't really know.
Well, that would be a mandate. It would be just like if you're wearing your name tag, you got to have your mask on. And I think teachers have to understand why, right? And that's just something, it's an adjustment that we all will have to make. So I think the reality is that whether we come back September 8th or we come back in January or we come back next June, right, for a month, we have to have a plan in place. And a part of that plan, mask has to be a part of that place. I mean, the data has shown that it's helping, supporting, and keeping the cases down. And I just think for being in I'm blessed to have a larger school, right? But having smaller schools, I just wouldn't take the risk in that not being something that's mandated in a school.
Yeah.
Yes. So anybody else want to talk about that? Comment?
I have a question for Ms. Kamilah. I don't think it'll be, now the teachers aren't happy to wear the mask, but I don't think it'll be an issue with teachers wearing the mask. But one of the questions that my colleagues proposed was, if you get one of these irate students who wears it into the building because they have to wear it coming in, but then they refuse to put it back on, and their parent might support them not wearing it, what's left for an educator to do, or who's going to handle that child? Because
what's the protocol? And there's going to need to be one.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And we're still developing kind of like FAQs around that. But remember, so parents have to sign a waiver basically agreeing to making sure that students have masks, and that the mandate is for it to be worn all day in the school. I would say, as for my school, they wouldn't want to see me walking in the classroom to come and tell you to put on a mask. But I do think that what my plans are when we do return, and if masks are the case, we really have to have conversations with students around why this is important and why this is a part of safety protocols, right? So it's bigger than just, well, my teacher told me to put it on. It really is us communicating for their safety. We know we're going to have kids come in, just how we don't know, we don't know how they're going to come from one day to the next. But I just think that it would be great to for administration and teachers to make sure they're working together and have a plan in place school by school of what that looks like. So if a student doesn't put on a mask, who do I call? For me in my school, it would be immediately the office, security is notified, and security or our school culture coordinator would address it.
Y'all gonna call security on these babies?
Well,
if need be. So my security staff is different. Yeah.
You must not have been in the school lately with the
I just
baby.
need clarity.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? I do want to address that. And I don't know what age we're speaking of, but I do have a concern even with the younger kids, you know, because some of them may have breathing, what is it? You know, just
Asthma,
health issues,
respiratory problems, absolutely.
all of that. And then what if they really just,
condition.
right? What if they just can't, you know, handle that? Are they going to have more teachers' aides, so to speak, to paraprofessionals that they have in the classrooms to assist? I mean, what are we talking? I mean, have they narrowed down or shortened the classrooms? Usually, what is it, 22 kids in a classroom to one teacher? I mean, is it right? So are we talking a guarantee a couple of assistants in there, because these kids are going to need the assistance?
Absolutely.
But then you have to think about it. When you add more assistants, that's taking away.
You add more people.
Yeah.
Okay, so did they hire more people? There should be some jobs available. I mean, if they're going to do that.
Well, I know that all of the teachers that I know would say, then you can raise my salary if you're doing that. And so speaking to that, I saw a post on Facebook by Pastor Jeffrey Newton, and it said, now is the time for the teachers to eat. Quit your job and charge $250 per student, 10 children to e-learn them. Do such a great job that we never send these kids back to school. Your class of 25 will be 10 via the internet, and your income goes from 30. I don't know any teacher that makes 30, but okay, to 130,000. You're welcome. That's what the post says. What do you, and I also have one friend who is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she has started her virtual school. She's a teacher, and she went ahead and did it because I know, and I'll tell you this, I know there are some students that from March to June did not check in 5 times in the e-learning. There are some students that need that hands-on approach. They need that visual. And in my opinion, and I'll put it to the floor, I think that there should be virtual class hours. I think there should be Zooms for children.
Yes.
Then I also know, I'm going to add this as well, there were schools that said, hey, come pick your iPad up, come and pick your computer up. And parents didn't come to the school to pick them up so that the children could e-learn. So what do? We just let the children skip this next year and say, hey, we'll make it up on the back end. Talk to me, ladies.
So can I tag on to that too? Because this might be at you, Ms. Kamilah.
Yes.
Even with, we're talking about e-learning, but what about e-teaching? You know, my son had an issue.
That's what I said. So that's what I just suggested at the top.
Sure.
Now, but I don't know if that's a thing that CPS does or any other school district. But I'm saying that should be a part of the conversation. And if not, then here teacher has her own business immediately.
Right. So I want to speak to what's happening out here in the suburbs. I know with my son, if you know, and he talks to his friends when they're trying to, if they're stuck on an issue or problem, and they contact via email, if you will, the instructor, and they don't get back to them right away. So it's really discouraging, and you really don't want that. And that's what I mean by having, because I like the virtual thing. It's certainly my suggestion as well. And then the Zoom thing. I don't see why all the kids can, because the biggest thing is socializing. I get that too. Why all the kids can't see each other, communicate, and the instructor should be able to just kind of like mute everybody out, and whoever has a question and answer it right then and there, rather than get back to them later while they're in the mode of learning, you know. But what do they have in place for that? Have they trained the instructors to be a little more patient, if you will?
Not all of them have. So this is where we are here. So my brother is a teacher in Atlanta, and his wife is in administration. So what they did there is, this last semester, he had to be online for a certain amount of hours with his students. So he's online, they're doing the work, and in real time, they're getting answers. So I don't know if that's the case with CPS. I don't know if that's the case with the suburbs here, but I know that that's the case in Atlanta, in the city of Atlanta. So talk to me about what you think it should look like. Miss Kae, do you think it's something, and I'm calling you Miss Kae, this is Mrs. Kamilah McGee,
I go
but
by Miss
I call her
Kae.
Miss, I've
That's
called her
not
Miss
a
Kae for
problem.
years. But what do you think about the e-learning in real time? What do you think about that?
That is what we had to do.
Okay.
I am with CPS. When we went in March, we didn't get trained on it. It was learn it in the heat of the
As
fire.
you go, it was an
I didn't
emergency
have a spring
situation.
break. Spring break, I took 8 classes to prepare.
Wow.
So I could have gone anywhere, but
Thank you
it
for
was
that.
real time. We had to have office hours, and we had to be with our class for a certain number of hours.
I like that.
I set up a Google phone number for my parents to reach
Yes.
us. My principal, and I think this was all in my network, those 40,000 laptops, computers, they said they got those out of our classrooms.
Okay.
So they gave them what was in our classroom. So then I'm thinking, if you make us go back, what electronics will we have in the building, because we distributed them all to the kids. But
well, the parents had to bring them back at the end of the school year, right? No,
not all, not.
Okay.
I think it was a
I
school
understand.
by school
Okay.
decision. I think it was a school
All
by
right.
school decision, and it wouldn't make sense to collect them June 24th and then pass them out August
Again.
24th.
Right.
So I think a lot of them kept them if you didn't have a kid that was graduating out of the school.
Okay.
But some children did not have internet access.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
another
that's-
thing.
CPS did provide internet access for a certain group of students. But if your name was not on that list, then you didn't get it. So I had 3 families who did not have internet access. We gave them a Chromebook, but they didn't have any way to access the internet with it. So that's
Wow. Well, you got
what it needs
hotspot
to
on the
be.
phone. And
Right.
also, it's my understanding if you are a person that's on Link, and not all parents are, I'm not saying that you are. If you are on Link, you can get internet for I think it's $10 a month, if I'm not mistaken. So please take advantage of that, parents, to get it. If you are on Link, run to the computer or your phone and go ahead and get Xfinity to come out and give you internet access for $10 a month. Also, again,
they did
hotspots
blast
on
it
phones.
out. All that was available, the free internet, the cable
Yes.
companies that were working things out during that time.
Yes.
But there were still families that went without.
And I understand that so essential workers, the ones that had to be at work, a lot of them are hourly workers and they don't have the ability to take off. And I will say this, with my children, I had the ability to be home with them, and I'm fully certain that I wouldn't have sent them back to school. And my children were laughing. We saw someone with a board, and this is what I think parents should do. Kamilah, I'm going to have you speak to this as well. So I think there should be a discipline in homeschooling. I don't think you should allow your children to go to bed whenever they want and get up whenever they want and do the schoolwork whenever they want. I think for me, my children would have still been getting up at 8 o'clock for breakfast, 8:30 school starts, and then we'll do your classes. You'll have a 45-minute lunch, and then we'll finish the classes up. If you were good, you'll get to watch television.
That's for at-home
When you
parents.
do your homework, I promise
Right.
you. And then, and I told my daughter the other day, I said, if you did your homework and did everything that you needed to do, we'd do school 4 days a week and off on Fridays. And I know my kids probably would have graduated from college, right from my living room. Because I know me. You have to still be hands-on with this thing. You can't just let them, did you do your work? No. Show me your work. You have, if you're going to have e-learning, this is so important. You have to have parents. You have to have a plan. It is not CPS's responsibility to make sure our children does the work. It's our responsibility.
I agree with you, Karen. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm going to let her answer.
I want Kamilah to get an opportunity to get in here because I know she has some opinions about this. Come on,
Sorry,
talk
go
to us.
ahead.
So I wanted to revisit your first point in reference to what teaching looked like. So I know when the closure first happened, we didn't have a great idea, one, of when we would be returning back to school, if school would be closed for the rest of the school year, as well as what expectations for teachers were. So one thing that I know CPS did was it was probably about the middle of April. They pulled data for Google Meets and Google Classroom. It was basically really the only data that can be pulled, as well as what were the Chromebooks and laptops being used for based off of the data. So all of those things can be tracked, right? And that was one of the things that they noticed, that teachers were doing totally different things. Some teachers were just assigning things and then just telling the kids to make sure you get it done by this time. And
Yeah.
then teachers, daily academy teachers were teaching every day, because my rationale around that was, what we will do, you'll continue. My school has historically, for about the past 16 years, has been underperformed, right?
Okay.
I told my teachers that you will continue to widen this achievement gap if we don't go ahead and just take an opportunity of teaching
True.
it. So my teachers taught all 4 subjects. And
Wow.
I mean, that was a non-negotiable for me, but that wasn't the expectation at other schools. And I also even noticed with my own son's school, where I had to then advocate for him to say, hey, this is not what he received. He needs to get this support, and this is what that should look like. So
Yes.
I really think that needs to be on the onus of the school leader, because you have the responsibility to lead schools,
Yes.
and also tell your teachers what school should look like, especially with this. This is totally different. I had teachers who absolutely refused to use technology, and then I had teachers who picked this up and they ran with it. And this is me fussing at them, saying, "Hey, I told you, you got to use the computer. You got to get on Google Slides." So we do have to. This going into the school year, remote learning is going to look different.
It is.
We will now be teachers will have to teach for 5 hours a day, and
That's good.
that's going to be. I think that's a great idea, because it raises the bar in terms of the expectation.
Sure.
We don't have. I can't afford for my kids to continue to only have 1 hour of instruction a day, and then the rest of the day we don't know what they're doing, and that's just the reality of it. And or assigning them things and then expecting them to know it. Like, I had to sit and teach my son how to do division. And for me, we have teachers who are getting their full salaries. A mini lesson has to take place, right? Let's do some small group activities, and then as a parent, I'm fine. But we have to continue to close the gap. You also talked about learning schedules. So we call my mom's house the Hampton School of Excellence, because
I love it.
they're on their schedule. They have to do all their subjects. They do recess. They do lunch. They do art. So I mean, it is possible to make school fun, but I also I'm understanding of the parents who can't be home with their students.
I get it. Yes, absolutely. I get it.
So we have, as a school, have to make sure we provide learning opportunities for students to do that. So I think that this pandemic, what it has done, it has shown us that school can look differently. Right. So, I mean, if a teacher is out because their child is sick, right? Like, and you're like, I'm going to be sitting at home. I don't want to consider this a sick day or something like that. Why can't a teacher teach virtually, right? They just aren't in the building.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to help us rethink how education can look moving forward, without putting all of these ramifications around. This is what it needs to look like. It's the traditional desk-to-desk, students facing forward.
Yeah. We have to get over that. We just have to get over that. I want to ask you this question. What is being done for like learning disabled students during this time? Is there any special things being done for them? Like, they were struggling to begin with, and so now it's probably an even greater struggle. What's being done for them?
So it is possible to implement a student's IEP virtually. And we had, I have a rockstar diverse learner team who pushed into all of the regular education classrooms, but then also had time set aside to support students with that grade level work, as well as their tasks, right? I don't know what that looks like from school to school. And that was actually something brought up to our CEO and our CEDO in reference to how are we going to make sure we're supporting all of our students' learning needs and giving them the minutes that they are supposed to have. But for me, as far as pushing in and pulling out, that did not change for my staff and my special education teachers. They did not look any different virtually. But I do think that we need to consider thinking about how do we continue to support them on an individual level.
Yes, that's what my concern. Traycee was going to have a comment. Kae, I promise you, I'm going to get you in. I promise you. I saw some facial expressions. Traycee, what do you think?
I love it. And I just got a question for you, Ms. Kamilah, but I do want to comment on, in our suburban area out here in Madison, Richmond Park, Olympia Fields, our school districts did supply hotspots, individual little hotspots for the children. Good. So that worked out really well. It was very convenient. So they could be anywhere, even on a trip or vacation, and could still have access to a hotspot. But I do want to ask, what's in place for the parents who don't have, just as Pastor Kae was saying, hey, she could, supervise the children and make sure that they're doing this and the time schedule. That all sounds really great. But some parents, like single parents, and I'm a single parent, sometimes you have to leave. Now, I'm not happy. My son will be 16, but I still want to know what he's doing, what time he's got to
I
go to bed,
promise
whatever.
you.
But
The
the
hourly
little,
check-ins on FaceTime. What are you doing? What? Show me.
right.
Show me the
But
room.
the smaller ones, right, who don't have the support, and I certainly commend you
Who's
on
over
the
there? Nobody's over there.
on the Hampton University. I love that. But a lot of people
Mhm.
don't have that supporting
Mhm.
system. What
Mhm.
would you say to that? What would
Yeah.
be your suggestion to those who are not as fortunate as what you have going on there?
Yeah, so what something that I asked my teachers, one, and then also two, I know I'm gonna do a better job this year of supporting my parents around like, hey, let's create a schedule together of what that can look like. So if you have to leave, you have multiple kids at home, here's what we'll do in reference to holding them accountable to making sure their work is done. But this is why I think we have to extend the amount of time that teachers are with students as well to be able to track engagement and make sure that
Yes.
students are doing what they're supposed to do. But it also goes back to that teacher-parent relationship, right?
It
Like
does.
if Terrell was not online, trust and believe I was getting a text message at 9:30, or I was, something didn't get turned in, I was getting contact. But that goes back to making sure that those relationships are strong. I know I was a teacher for 5 years. I know how hard it is to get in contact with some parents.
Yes.
But I think
Yes.
that's why SEO is important in building relationships with those students to say, hey, I have high expectations of you. Here's my expectation. I need you here every single day. I need you on camera. I care about you. We were able to do a few home visits, but of course they had to be socially distant. Like
Yes.
I wasn't sending my security guards to go knock on doors and things like that. But I only had about 6% of my community who we were not able to get in contact with.
Oh,
But
okay. That's pretty good.
That's good. Yeah.
this year, I'm going to do a better job of making sure that I support parents through that. Like, hey, here are some possible schedules and things you can do if you can't be home, or if this is what this looks like. Setting an alarm, making sure the kids have breakfast. They come to the
Yes.
school, check in with us at the school, making sure they get breakfast and lunch for the day.
Yes.
I just think that with that, with us not really knowing what was going to happen in March and April, those are things that we should be thinking about of how we can support our parents moving forward.
And also, is there so when I was in I was in a suburban school district, 227 for high school and 162 for the grammar school. Yes. And they had what's called Power School, where we could go on and look at the children's grades. And if I saw a missing grade, then it's a conversation when you get home. No, you're not getting ready to play games. No, you're not getting ready to watch television. Why is this work not in? She didn't grade it yet. Are you sure she didn't grade it? Then I'm on the computer giving an email. When are we going to get these grades? I want to know what's going on. We're not going to wait till the last minute. I'm saying I don't want to hear it. I do not want to hear it. Again, I cannot stress enough how much the parents.
Here comes Ms. McGee. You got an answer for that one.
Right. Does CPS have something like Power School where the parents can look at their grades?
Yes.
Are they able to do that?
Yes.
Ms. Kae, come on
Yes.
in and please give us your comments and questions. Go ahead.
We do. The CPS does have a parent portal where parents can check the grades. And I think that, I keep saying Kamilah because you're like at the head of this, but there needs to be a whole lot more parent accountability. The caliber of parents that we are talking about, we're not working with that type of student, that type of parent.
What does that look like?
And then, so a typical day for me while we were in fourth quarter was, my parents were wonderful, but it was work. I mean, when I say blood, sweat,
it's more work
tears,
virtually.
it was work.
God knows it is.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious alive! Like, I don't have words for that one. But it was like a 45 to 90 minute conversation per student household.
Wow.
To get them set up. And then you have to, you give them time, you get them into the routine. And for those parents that work, my parents worked with me wonderfully, but I have that rapport, that reputation before we left the building, which puts the children we are about to receive, where we haven't built that yet. So that's a hurdle right there. But when you have mama come in the screen to help you, because your mic is stuck and she's got on her sports bra, and my third graders are, they cooking breakfast and the kids eating cereal and you trying to talk to them at the same time.
Yeah.
I loved my parents being there, but one family got to fight and the baby's mic was on and we heard every
No.
and so here I am
Call a social worker.
how can I expect you to do your assignment when your mom and your granny, they going to blows. And I'm like, wow, mic off, mute your
That's gotta
mic,
be hard.
turn your screen, you know what I'm saying? And then those interruptions in the house that impede our learning.
Yeah.
Or like my voice is strong when I'm teaching. My second grade co-partner, her voice is strong. Thankfully, we were able to give both brothers an apparatus, but mama needed to be like this, watching both of them. So I hear her in my mic, in my lesson, she hears me, and I'm like, so-and-so, can you tell Miss so-and-so to please? And then I finally had to tell mama, can you please put them in separate rooms? But her boys are ones that needed to be watched 20, because he was holding up the cat and showing us the cat when mama stepped away to help the brother. So, I mean, the teachers, we're trying, but there's just so much. But I also if we have to go, we're talking about remote, like in Jesus' name, it's all set up and that's what's going to happen. But if it is a dual approach, or Auntie Lori said, you going back in the classroom, well, what do we do? How is that going to look?
So I want to talk a little bit about, I want to stay on the e-learning.
Okay.
I want to stay on the e-learning. So what should a parent be doing? Like if you could give, because right now you have the floor. There's a conference with all of the parents and all of the parents are listening. What should they be doing? How should they be addressing this? What they should be doing with their children, in your opinion, as a teacher?
During over the summer, or to
prepare for e-school? I mean, like to come back. Let's say we're going to e-school. That's just, we're going to say that.
Okay. Then let's make sure we have an apparatus. Let's make sure we have an internet connection. Let's make sure we start getting our children onto a sleep schedule as it's time to get closer. Notebooks, a pattern, but also an issue is going to be if a family only has one Chromebook and they have 3-4 kids. And everybody's supposed to be at school at the same time. That's a major issue.
Yes, it is.
And we have several families with multiple kids. It's an issue. So when you're pressing for a teacher to be in her classroom 5 straight, first of all, 5 hours in front of a screen is a long. I don't have any, that's a long time to sit.
Well, you still get the same breaks that you'd get if you were in the class. So it should be just like that in e-school.
But it's the logistics of it has to be set up, which is why the teachers are if they would tell us what we're going to be with full remote, part-time in, part-time out, we would like to start planning, because it's a lot of work. We need to establish relationships, start calling parents, asking them if they have the internet, get a list going so we can send the list to the network or to whomever. We already know these families don't have internet. They don't have Chromebooks. That stuff can start to be disseminated now if somebody would tell us what not a preliminary, but make a plan, make a decision, and let us start planning what we need.
Okay, Ms. Kae, I have another question for you. So you don't want to be online for 5 hours, and I'm sensing that you don't want to be in the classroom. What does e-learning look like for you then?
I would love to be back in the classroom if I could. That's where I want to be. If I could,
yes, absolutely. That's the optimal look. You're going to the classroom. Okay, now let's be real.
Okay. If e-learning should look like, well, for me, we did Google Classroom. Okay. And I was able to establish all my kids had an email address. Every CPS student, even preschoolers, have an email address.
Okay.
But you have to, the parents will have to set it up and get them in, and then work into the routine, establish it, show them how to work it, the different platforms, different ways of turning in work to complete work. How do you know your work was turned in? How do you check your grades? Is the logistics of it all. The routines need to be established and set in place.
So again, so for you, one second, Traycee, and then you'll be next, all right? So how many hours do you think you should be e-learning as a teacher, CPS? Ms. Kae. Yeah.
Ask Traycee. Let me think about it. It's not
All right. Well,
I'm just gonna be short and sweet about it.
all right. Well, I'll come back to you on that. Think about it. Traycee, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening to having the support from the parents. I mean, that sounds nice. Is it user friendly though? Because you've got some people who, I mean, I have to say it, who may not have even finished high school. Some parents, you know what I mean. So
And I know people that finished college and still can't get on a computer and email.
Right. So I mean, is it as user friendly? I mean, is all that in place? Do they have an actual training for the parent? Before this all starts in place, this may be a Kamilah question. Do they have a training in place before this all starts so they're not all kerfuffled and, just stuff everywhere? You know what I mean? So what's in place for that? It may be intimidating.
It's your turn, Kamilah.
Again, the district did offer classes for parents to attend to get adjusted to Google Meets and Google Classroom. But I always take and replicate what the district does for my own parents. My parents are majority Spanish speaking. So I've of course, hold the accountable, making sure that that's offered in both languages. But once again, I go back and Miss Clay, I hear your frustrations. I totally understand, with everything that's taking place. But what I always tell my teachers is that we have to always remember what's the North Star, right? Some of my kids, they depended on being on those Google Meets. They depended on that because that was all. They're like, sometimes my school, for a lot of my kids, is all that they have. Like, and sometimes reference to people, all that they have. And we know that we don't get to pick and choose our parents. We
No.
And I'ma just be real. I have personally have parents all across the spectrum, and I know that I have to respect them as if they lived on 18th in Michigan. Right?
Yes.
Like that's
the John Hancock building. Yeah.
Right. And I provide for my parents because I feel like I owe it to them, even if some of them can't read or if they can't engage in some of the things that even the students are doing. But that goes back to, I'll say it again, this case, leadership, right? Like when it came to issues with the internet issues, like I didn't have those issues because we were advocating for that stuff on the district level. CPS did provide outside of they were called like DCs or whatever, the hotspot. If you advocated and said that I have kids who don't have internet, there were other programming that they could sign up for. And now they're so connected, they can get internet access if they can't afford to purchase it. So it really is about being strategic about it. I begged this entire pandemic. I have 4 back to school events going on. I've just been asking because the reality is I know my parents and my kids need it. But I think there's a great conversation for you to have with your principal about how can you support going into the fall. Like if I don't have a kid with internet, who do I talk to?
Right.
I can't be the one that's stopping, and you shouldn't be the one that's stopping to tell the parent how to get online. We all have technology people inside of our building that should be supporting you with that work, right? Like, so really thinking have the conversations that you can be having, not only just with your parents about the expectations and the norms. And I was going to say about that, we had some of that too, where the kids were coming to school in pajamas and all kind of stuff. And I have my teachers talk to the kids as well as their parents to say, hey, my expectation is for them to be logged in at this time. They need to have on clothes. Breakfast should be done. I need you not to be in the back of the camera fighting. And if I had to step in and go have conversations or contact parents and say, hey, this is disrupting the rest of class and school, I did that. Right? Like, but you gotta have, and I mean, my parents know if I was calling or if I was showing up at your door, it's like, okay, at this point we can get them wrong.
And then some of them are unhappy. We're in their households now. You know what I mean? They feel like it's an intrusion, if you will. It's education. It's the new way of the education now.
It is.
And teachers did correct it. And you can always call a house after the fact, but in the moment when your whole class is on their screen and they're seeing it, and then you have to de-escalate, you have to deal with that, and then try to get them back into the lesson. So after the fact, the teachers can do some things, but in that moment when you got 20 little kids and everybody saw your mama, it's a different thing.
You got to learn how to mute them and just remove them from the call. Just remove them from the call and call them on the call and say, you know what? I think you probably should join that class on tomorrow.
I love it. I love it. So, Ms. Kae, are you ready to answer? How do you think e-learning should be? What does it look like for you?
I think all kids should have an electronic device. I think they all should have Wi-Fi access. Yes. I think that we as educators should have free reign. To me, there are no best practices during COVID. I think we are establishing what those best practices are right now.
Absolutely.
So we should have a little leeway. In the beginning of the school year, we always have the first 20 days where you get to establish your routines and all of that.
Yes.
We still need that. We don't need so much right now following pacing charts and, these children have lost their loved ones. We need to get in and get to know these kids. If we have to have a mask on, they can't see our faces, they can't feel our expressions. But on e-learning, we got to get to know them. We got to deal with what's going on right now before we can ever get to teaching. Then we can ease it into it. I know mine is going to start off with your email address and Google Classroom. They going to know that like your social security number.
Yes.
And we have to have time. Don't let administration bombard us. We all of us are not new to this. Not saying we can't learn, but we need time to be able to establish our routines, to get to know these kids, to deal with the nitty gritty of what they've been through since we left them in March.
Yes, I agree.
So I did reading, math, science, social studies, writing. I did all 5 subjects when we left. I think we should have to do that, but we also have to know. In my school, we went from Basil's textbooks, workbooks to now I don't want to grade your papers. I'm going to do some slides so it can grade on here. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what their homework is at home. So we have to teach them how to do that. But we have to first make sure they all have the equipment that they need. And then tell us what you expect. Let us, the administration and the teachers, come to an understanding, and then give us time to implement it. And also we need to establish those relationships with parents and let them know we can hear you, we can see you, but
right.
We
Yes,
can't
that should be a memo. That absolutely is a memo.
He holds up the cat in the screen. So it's a give and take. But mama might be working from the dining room table because she's working from home.
Exactly.
She may not be able to come help you at this moment. And that's some things that we just have to try to communicate with the parents. But if the powers that be could take some of that off of the teachers and let us prepare to get ready, and they have a meeting or they have a Zoom. I've been on Zooms. My son is on Freshman Connection for 3 weeks, twice a week, and they're getting ready. So administration started with the parents so the teachers can start getting ready to teach. We want to teach. We don't want to do all this other stuff.
Yeah. So I'd like to, if you will, I know we're all familiar with what's the book, Who Moved My Cheese? I mean, this is change for everyone, period.
Absolutely.
What does it look like with respect to social workers? How does the children have access, and even the teachers who are getting frustrated, as I hear you saying, Ms. Kae, and even the kids? I mean, how do they have access to them?
This is my next question. So I'm going into the losses that the children have had. Me personally, I think being at the pastor level, I hear probably about more deaths than normal people. So how are you guys, how is CPS addressing that? And also there was something else that I was hearing, how like the level of abuse has gone up since we went into our homes. And in some cases it's underreported where the children are concerned because they are not in the schools now. So the teacher can't visibly see things that they would see, behaviors changing that they would normally see. And then the teacher, who is a mandated reporter, all people, if you're having children at your church and you see something, you too are a mandated reporter. So a mandated reporter means, and I just want to discuss this is my Achilles heel, that you don't have to negotiate it. You don't have to try and figure it out. You give it to the people that are professionals and were trained to do this. You give it to them, and then they'll work it out. And so what are we doing? And I know this is if you can answer this, Kamilah, because at the level you are, you probably dealt with it more than most. What is CPS doing for the abused children? And there are some. So what is the protocol for that?
Yeah, so the process just as the same that if you notice, I even had to unfortunately deal with some during the closure.
Wow.
I am very big when it comes to the mandated reporting. SAS is also in reference to if students are exhibiting like maybe suicide ideation and things like that.
Yes.
The
Yes.
reporting stays the same, right? And I tell my teachers all the time, like, you know your students best. You know if your students off. You know if you hear something in the background that you don't. And I'll be honest with you, Miss K, when that situation with the fighting probably happened, one of my teachers probably would have reported it because they don't know. Like, you really at this point in time, we can't guess, or we can, like you said, take matters into our own hands and say, oh, that's just their family. They're just fighting. We don't know if students are really in danger or what could possibly happen. So I just think it's important, especially for educators who are watching. Don't ever chance it. Don't ever say, you know what, I'm just not going to do it today or I'll call tomorrow. Always go ahead and make the call just to be sure. As an administrator, I always have to have my teachers back on that and say, and even if a parent has come up irate, because most of the time they know what the teacher did it, or if it was something that, you know, they know their teachers. My parents know the teachers. My teachers know their kids. And I just have to always unpack and explain to parents, look, your kid's safety is my priority. We can't keep it at anything. If it's nothing, it's nothing, right? And that'll get rectified by you showing it's nothing. But if there happens to be something there, it's my responsibility as well as my teachers to make sure my kids are safe, and I back them 100%. There was something I wanted to say to the SEO. I know Ms. K talked about when we come back in September. So my school community has had several losses. I've had teachers that have lost parents, kids that have lost family members. And then just in not dealing with COVID, but we lost one of our students due to gun violence.
Yes, I heard about that. So sorry. So sorry.
Yeah,
He's
so
such a sweet young man.
I have a super strong cultural team, SEO team who was checking. So my dean and my counselor, what they did was they basically like split up and they took kids that they reached out to every single day. If we were not able to contact kids, then that's when we escalated it up to the district. As far as crisis, we contacted I canceled classes for a few days, right? This is a very popular kid in our community. Everybody Park District. And then also he has a twin brother. So we just made our crisis team was hands on deck. I've continued supporting the family and staying in contact with our kids, but those first few weeks of school will have to be completely SEO driven. I as a parent and a teacher already, because I always consider myself to be a teacher. My first week of school last year, I didn't ask teachers for lesson plans. I told them you need to culture build and you need to build SEO skills within your students. But the reality is that SEO should be implemented in instruction every single day. And this is something that actually my dissertation is around social emotional support for African American males. But there really shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to say for the first hour of the day you need to stop and do a check-in with your students, right? Like these should be things that we're teaching kids embedded in our lessons every day, as far as how you support each other or how you show empathy, or how, these should be lessons that we should be giving students already. But I totally agree with Ms. K. That I would say the first month of school, it really needs to be addressing SEL. And what does that look like? I think the first 20 days we talked about the programming for reading and math. Those can be integrated with some SEL supports and needs that students will have. But I totally agree. Like, we're gonna have to really revisit how we look at the month of September for our students coming back and making sure we're supporting not just their academics, but supporting making sure they're socially emotionally ready to even have conversations about math and reading.
Right. So, what is the acronym SEL? And
social emotional learning.
Thank you. Okay. So again,
I'm sure most folks were figuring that out. Go ahead.
I mean, I just wanted to. I mean, you still want to verbalize it, but so where is the social worker in that, though? I mean, does the parent know that they do have access? Although e-learning, do we make the parents aware that it is available? That help?
Yeah, 100%. So social workers and counselors have office hours for parents, and so my team is a little bit different. So my dean and my counselor, and then I also have a social worker. So I was blessed to have all three. They're actually reaching out to parents and reaching out to students, as well as my teachers knew that if there were students that had not been checking in or students they were concerned about, the referral process was the same. So that's why I keep saying e-learning and remote learning can look as if we were in the building, right?
Yes.
Like
Right,
these
right.
can look as if they're in the building. Social workers should still be giving students minutes. The speech task, speech pathologist, you're still giving students minutes in that kind of that small setting. But students also had access to the counselor, to the social worker, to everything. Right? That should not look different just because students are at home. If anything, we should intensify. Even now, my dean is calling. He has 5 to 10 kids that he has to call every single day over the summer.
Wow.
Because we're still checking in on all of our kids to make sure.
Yeah.
And then when we, our leadership team, they say, hey, this is off, or this kid needs resources, or we need this. That's what then I, on the administrative level, am advocating for the district or for outside donors and resources.
Great.
Thank you, ladies. I know you guys probably don't even realize we've come to the end of this hour and this conversation is just beginning. But I drew some conclusions during this hour. You have to have good administration and you have to have good teachers. You have to have teachers that care. Ms. Kae, you can tell that Kae cares about her students. You can tell that Kamilah cares about her students and staff. That is very important. So talking to every educator, I pray that God gives you the passion that you had when you first got into this. And also, we need a school board that is willing to work with administration, with teachers, and with students. This is a joint effort. It's our children. These are our babies, as my girlfriend always says. These are our babies that we have to be concerned about. And so we need to get a team of teachers, parents, students, and educators and the administration together to do this. I'm going to pray really quick. God, we thank you for not allowing this group of people that's on this live to have suffered loss. We are here. It could be worse, and we know this, and we want to let you know that you bless us to get here. And so now we speak wisdom into the minds of the staff of every school that is in the city of Chicago, state of Illinois. And now I'll go outside in other states. Would you give administration wisdom? You said as much wisdom as we ask for, that's how much you give us. You said acknowledge you in all our ways and you would direct our path. Would you direct us where we're supposed to be? Protect our children from danger seen and unseen, all danger, hurt, and harm. Would you not let it come nigh them? Would you steal the hand of the abuser, steal the hand of the pedophile, send angels to encamp round about them, ministering angels and angels of protection to protect them at this time. God, we thank you for allowing them to still be able to learn, put a passion inside of the students, inside of the teachers, inside of administration. And we will thank you for it. We'll give you all the praise and all the glory. In the matchless name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I love y'all. Thank y'all.
Amen.
I'll see
Thank
you soon.
Love you,
Thanks for joining
ladies.
us. Good night.
Bye-bye.